Right, I am back with another video, and today it is the third of my Halloween builds, in addition to also being one of my 2 subscriber special videos for hitting 1,000 subscribers, which is insane. And in fact, I'm a bit late to the punch because I think we're nearly at 1,200 by the time I'm recording this, so absolutely insane. Thank you again. But this is a build collection that I've wanted to do ever since I found a video online, which I will post in the description so you can do this yourself as well, that shows how to get 4 fully customized player characters in a single playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. And when I realized that Halloween was coming up, I absolutely had to do it for the month of October. So we are building a collection of characters that are absolutely near and dear to my heart. This was my childhood. From the moment I was old enough to understand TV, I was watching Scooby-Doo. In the UK, we have an old, I guess, kind of like retro TV program, or at least we used to, called Boomerang, which played a lot of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, mainly Scooby-Doo. And I used to watch the original Scooby-Doo, What's New Scooby-Doo, pretty much every Scooby-Doo TV show, kind of from around the kind of like that was kind of airing like over the early 2000s. And obviously the original show from way back when. And I absolutely loved all of it. I have been a huge fan of Scooby-Doo for a long, long time, and to finally be able to fully realize these characters in this game is awesome, and I think you're really, really going to like the team I've come up with here. So what I've kind of done for these characters is, obviously there's only so far, like you can only go so far with the concept of Scooby-Doo characters in D&D, or in this case Baldur's Gate 3, because you kind of get like the general, like they would all just be like human rogue monk fighters, kind of, because it would just be like kind of unarmed stuff and, you know, maybe a couple of extra spells here for like ghost hunting or whatever. So I kind of had to reimagine the Scooby-Doo cast as if they were a D&D party. So while we're going to be staying on theme with the kind of aspects of the show that I think are pretty cool, we're also going to be making a competent D&D party as well, using those elements. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. I think you'll appreciate some of the choices I've made here and the kind of archetypes I've placed each of the characters into. And for the record, I know my lore stuff. I've been watching this show for ages, and I've built these guys to be accurate to their personalities and their ability sets. So I really, really hope you enjoy. Second note, obviously, this is going to be a very, very long video. This is 4 builds combined into one. I will try and be as quick as I can with each of them as to not bloat the video too much. However, I will be making timestamps, so they should appear as chapters in the video for each individual build if you want to see a specific character more than the rest. Also, obviously, the build descriptions are the builds are kind of in the description of this video as always, so feel free to check those out there if, again, you don't want to watch a video that is however long this turns out to be. But if you're in it for the long haul, or perhaps you're listening to this on a long road trip or something, sit back, relax, and, I don't know, enjoy my voice, I guess. Let's get into the build. So, Fred Jones, Freddy, he is the leader of the group, the one who takes charge, comes up with strategies, and comes up with the traps to catch the not the killer, good god, bit morbid, catch the criminal. And so I've decided to build Freddy as kind of the face of the party. He is the charismatic leader, but he also is a strategist. He is going to be able to buff up his allies in battle, giving them commands and being able to maneuver the rest of the team around the battlefield in order to get the baddie. So we're going to be starting off as a fighter. This is going to get us a bunch of important weapons, armor, and skills. All of our proficiencies that we want, and so it's going to be quite important to get all of these as early as we can so we can be an effective fighter right off the bat. We're going to be getting Second Wind, which is just for a little bit of healing, which is nice. We're also going to get a fighting style. Now, I have built Fred to be a sword and shield wielder because I felt like that worked best in my head. And as such, I've gone with dueling here just to get that bit of extra damage, but honestly, you can grab any of these that you want. I don't think there's a single fighting style that really just speaks Fred, in my opinion, so go with whatever you feel like is appropriate and looks cool for a leader of a D&D party. I mean, Fred in the actual show is like a badass a lot of the time, especially some of the later material. This dude is like gone full, like, John Wick and, like, landed crashed planes and beat the crap out of bad guys. He does a lot of stuff, in especially some of the later material. So I definitely feel like him being this badass fighter type that leads the party is definitely a way to go. Like I said, I'm going dueling here, but take whatever you like. As for our ability scores, they're a little bit all over the place, and you can kind of do what you like with them, but we definitely want to have 16 strength, since our main weapons are going to be strength-based, but you could play around with this if you want to. We're a heavy armor build, so dex isn't quite as necessary. In fact, the weapon we're going for is actually finesse, so if you wanted to go more into dex than strength, you could, but I quite liked having a strength character in the build, because everybody else is more dex-orientated. We've got Constitution of 14. You can kind of bump this higher if you want, if you'd rather have 15, but I don't mind having it at 14, since we're going to be going fighter, we're going to get some extra feats, so we'll have more of a chance to bring this up anyway. And I would like to have a little bit of wisdom here, just so we can make those, like, perception checks and such, because again, we're a Mystery Incorporated with the leader of a ghost-hunting, criminal-catching crew. We want to have a little bit of perception so we can find the clues. Also, charisma, again, being the face of the party is super, super important that we want charisma, and also it's going to affect some of our stuff that we're going to get later, if you couldn't tell. As for our skill proficiencies, insight and perception are definitely some things we want to pick up. I've made Fred a human, so we can definitely grab persuasion here from our human kind of skill if we wanted to get that. If we found that was important, and it should be, as we are the face of a party, but we can get this later when we multi-class. But also things like investigation obviously would not go amiss here, but we do have others in the party who are more suited to deep, detailed investigation, so this is kind of hit or miss. You can go with it if you want, but I quite like insight, perception, and persuasion here. In addition to animal handling and survival, we went with folk hero for Fred. Again, leader of the party, kind of works. Alright, next up at Fighter level 2, we're going to be getting Action Surge. This is one of the great things about Fighter. It means just once per short rest, we immediately gain an extra action. Pretty good. Let's move on. I've rambled so much that I kind of want to get through this quickly now. Right, next up at Fighter level 3, I think this was pretty obvious when I kind of stated my mission statement for this build, but we are going with the Battle Master. This is going to give us some maneuvers. Now, obviously, a lot of people would want to focus on the maneuvers that boost up their own attacks, but I really obviously wanted to go with this Commander theme, like this Battle Commander theme, so we're going to be getting some maneuvers here that are going to improve our allies. Commander Strike is the first one. We get to command an enemy to be able to use their reaction to make a weapon attack. Now, this is quite important. It says weapon attack, which means this is only going to work with people who are wielding melee weapons. One of the characters in this party does not. They are an unarmed fighter, so we're going to need to make sure that we're only using this on the characters that do have weapons, in which case there are a couple. But this is still a nice feature to have to give your allies an extra attack, essentially, for only their reaction. Next up, disarming attack is another good not disarming, sorry, distracting. Distracting attack is another good option. This allows you to distract your target, allowing your allies to give advantage. Fred uses himself as bait to get the creature's attention, while the others attack and manage to get the drop on them, so they can tie them up and pull the mask off. Quite like it. The next one you can go with is Rally, if you would like, if you want to be able to give an ally 8 temporary hit points, but I don't feel like it's entirely necessary. Maneuvering attack can be really good. You deal a bit of extra damage with your attack, and then you can select a friendly creature that's nearby to move half its movement speed, although I find this to be a little bit meh. I mean, it's a surprisingly small radius around you that you get to tell for like who you get to select to move. So really, if you wanted a far away ally to move towards you, this doesn't really work, but getting an ally that's closer to you to move away can also work. So maybe having Fred, like, again, distracting the enemy so that the others can get into a safe area, so like Fred is being chased and shows Shaggy and Scooby run away, like that can kind of work. So I will be taking it here, but don't worry, we will have opportunities to get more of these not too long from now. Next up at Fighter level 4, we're going to be getting our first feat, and now this is kind of up to you. You can take an ability score improvement here to put your strength to 18 or your constitution to 16 now. But however, I'm going to recommend that you probably would want to bump Constitution first, since you can use the Potion of Everlasting Vigor here on Fred to get him to 18, and since this is our only strength character for this video, there's not a lot of reason to use it on the other characters, so there's no problem with using that potion here. I keep calling it the Potion of Everlasting Strength. It's the Potion of Everlasting Vigor. My apologies if that's confusing. But so you can either bump your Constitution here, or you can go for the Martial Adept feat. This is going to give you an extra superiority die and 2 more maneuvers, which we will want. I am now going to be taking Trip Attack. This means that we can have a creature knocked over and make it prone while dealing an additional 1d8 damage. And of course, if a target is prone, that means that you and anyone around them who attacks has advantage. Similar to Distracting Strike, but I think Distracting Strike has a higher chance to go off, whereas prone, it can be a bit trickier to get. So it's an weigh your options situation. Of course, again, you could get Rally here to be able to, you know, give your enemies temporary HP, which is personally what I'm going to go for here. So then all of our abilities are about working as a team and not just being a solitary fighter that just happens to be stuck in a party with other people. I quite like this thematically, but obviously pick the options that you like, that you feel are more powerful if you don't care about being a team player in this case. But I do, so we're taking Martial Adept and grabbing these extra 2 features. Next up at fighter level 5, we're going to be getting extra attack, which is awesome. That means we're going to be a more effective fighter. And now at fighter level 6, we're going to be getting our bonus feat, and this is where I'm going to be taking that bump to Constitution, giving us a decent amount of HP, so we can be at the front of the battle. Definitely want to kind of keep this high, and then all of our stats are going to be quite well rounded, and again with our strength being a bit higher thanks to the potion. So yeah. Alright, next up we're going to be doing our big multi-class now. Now, of course, if you felt like it, you could stay here at this level of fighter, grabbing those 2 extra maneuvers and an extra superiority die if you so wish, and that is perfectly fine. However, I want 6 levels of another class, which you could probably guess is Bard, for some reasons that we're going to get into in a minute. However, this is kind of free to play around with. In fact, maybe Fighter 7 Bard 5 would be better, but it's up to you. Also, these levels aren't set in stone. If you wanted to start off with Fighter to get those proficiencies, then go straight into Bard, then come back to Fighter after that, if you feel like the Bard abilities are worth it to you more, then absolutely go ahead. But I'm just building these classes one after the other. So, with Bard, we're going to be getting our 2 cantrips. This is going to be our Vicious Mockery and Friends, because we are the face of the party, and Fred can taunt an enemy to distract them to allow the rest of the gang to get away. Or you can use Friends for those dialogue options. Again, you are the face of the party. We're also going to be getting Bardic Inspiration, which is another way for us to kind of have that battle commander sort of feel, giving us the ability to buff an ally's ability checks, attack rolls, or saving throws by 1d6. These recover on a long rest, however, that is going to be improved in the future. We also get some spells at this level, and at this point it is a take whatever you like situation. I quite like heroism here. You are the face of the party, you're the leader, and you're not afraid of no ghost, so being immune to frightened is going to be good, and because you're a frontline fighter, those 5 temporary hit points are going to be quite good. I really like this feature. Next up, it can kind of be whatever you like. You can take the utility spells Longstrider and Featherfall if you would like, but I don't think they're necessary here because we are going to be getting this on another character in this build video, so maybe not worth taking them here. So I would personally grab Fairy Fire. This is going to allow you to mark a target and say, alright gang, let's get them, and then everyone has advantage to hit. Another bit, kind of going into that more of a commander aspect again. And then the other 2 can be whatever you like. We can take some offensive options here, like Dissonant Whispers and Thunderwave, if you feel like you're lacking in the ranged damage department, although this build does use a bow. So it's kind of up to you to decide what you really want to use, but I quite like these options here, but feel free to mess around with it. If you want to do some healing, do some healing. If you want those utility spells, grab them. If you want to do Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which actually I am going to take over Dissonant Whispers, because I just realised Scooby-Doo has a laugh track. So the enemies laugh, and it becomes a laugh track. See, I'm an unintentional genius when I want to be. I'm also very humble. As for your instrument, take whatever you like. I personally like the sound of Fred having a lute. I'm pretty sure he's played a guitar, but I could be wrong. But I'm going to take a lute anyway. We're also going to get an extra skill proficiency here, and I think I am going to be grabbing Investigation here, just so we can get that little bit of, you know, extra kind of mystery-solving aspect. Literally, the description says, solve mysteries and analyze clues, which is on theme with Scooby-Doo, and Fred being the leader wants to be able to do that, so grab Investigation here. Even if it's slightly suboptimal, but it's on theme, god damn it. Next up, at Bard level 2, we're going to be getting a bunch of good things. We're going to be getting Jack of all trades, so now we're somewhat proficient in everything, which is great. Song of Rest, a third short rest, kind of good for just any situation. And we're also going to get another spell at this level. We'll grab Dissonant Whispers here now anyway. At Bard level 3, we get to pick our subclass, and if you watched my Chosen of Timora video, you probably knew where I was going with this. We're going with the College of Valour here, which again, I'm quite happy to be able to use this subclass again so soon, because I've actually grown to quite like it. We're going to get Combat Inspiration. So this is going to add a 1d6 bonus to attack rolls, ability checks, saving throws, but can also add it to weapon damage or armor class. So our Combat Inspiration can now do extra things. I will have an infographic on screen showing exactly everything it can do, just so you know what you're working with here. But I really, really like this as being a battle commander, whereas before it was about bending luck. Now it's about, you know, being able to effectively manage a team, which I quite like. We're also going to be getting another spell at this point, and I quite liked... well, see Invisibility is quite thematic. In a say you're playing as the Scooby-Doo gang in a D&D setting. They have lived in a D&D setting. It's like an alternate universe. Do you think a bunch of people who go out hunting ghosts for a living would not be able to use see Invisibility? Just putting it out there. However, obviously you don't have to take this ability. There are a few more options that I will recommend as we go. Enhanced ability, a great option. It's one of the kind of better spells in the game. Yes, it costs a level 2 spell slot, but the fact that it can let you do so many things that are really important across the game, I quite like it. But it's up to you if you want to take this. Hold Person can be literally can also be theorized as setting like a wire trap or a rope trap, trapping the bad guy, getting ready to pull off the mask, or in the case of D&D, fucking kill him. So whichever one of these you prefer, I mean, you'll be able to grab either or as we kind of level up anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I'll go with See Invisibility first, just because I quite like it and it's on theme. Next up at Bard level 4, we are going to be getting our feat, and this means we're going to be getting our final ability score improvement for this build, meaning we're going to bump ourselves up to 18 charisma, so our charisma-based spells do a little bit more. So to summarize, we would have 18, 16, 18 across our main stats, which is pretty good. We also get another set of cantrips here. We can pick one. It's whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. Fred is a human and doesn't have dark vision, so light could work. But I could also say Blade Ward works for just being a bit more tanky, but also Minor Illusion if you want to turn the enemy's holographic ghost-making machine back on them. But I'm going to just go with light here because I literally never take it in any other instance. And of course, we get to take the other spell that we didn't take here. I am personally going to be grabbing Hold Person, because again, you can kind of make flavor it as setting a trap. I quite like this. Now, here we go at Bard level 5, we're going to be getting Font of Inspiration, meaning our Bardic Inspiration die now recover on a short rest as well, which is awesome. We get 3 of those with this build. And also our Bardic Inspiration is now a D8, meaning now we can even further empower our allies. Now, the main reason I wanted to come to this high in Bard levels, we get Glyph of Warding. We literally get to set a trap. Fred's whole thing is designing and creating and placing traps, and with Glyph of Warding, we can literally do that in this game. If you think this is really essential to making a Fred build, then get this as early as you can and get the fighter levels later, but I'm just showing these in order, like I said. This is awesome. You get to create fire traps, lightning traps, force traps, sound traps, a bunch of different stuff. Absolutely want to pick this up. It is so on theme. It is perfect for this build. Now, as I said, we have a bit of an option here. You can either go to Bard level 6. We would get extra attack, but we already have it, so that's not really important. Counter Charm is meh, although it would be kind of theorized as you're kind of bolstering the gang's resolve, so they're less likely to get frightened. And you would also get another level 3 spell here, but none of these really speak to me, actually. So now that I think about it a bit more, I think we should go back to Fighter and get these extra maneuvers and an extra superiority die. So let's have a look at what we can grab here. I quite like the idea of grabbing maybe Precision attack or Pushing attack. Those could be good. Goading attack. Actually, I'm going to take Goading attack, because that means you can kind of do that, hey, look at me type deal, because Fred is quite brave. And so now that those enemies are going to come and attack you. I quite like this. It's a bit like a compelled duel. And then Precision attack is just a good one to kind of get a bit of extra damage, but honestly, I could see you going for Fainting attack, Evasive footwork to kind of get like Patient defense almost from Monk. Disarming strike could be really good. Riposte I've always quite liked. In fact, I'll probably take that one. It's just quite nice overall. I quite like this little kit we've got here now, so yeah, I think actually we're going to be taking Fighter 7, Bard 5. And that is the build. Now you see that we're in our camp clothes, we look a lot more like Fred Jones. In fact, I will be actually doing something a bit weird that I don't do in my videos. I'm going to be showing off the camp clothing for all of these guys. So, here's the equipment. Now, this equipment selection is going to look a little bit weird. That's because I gave myself an extra challenge for this video. I wanted this build to be able to come online these builds, all of them, to be able to come online as quickly as they can, at least equipment-wise. So all of the items I showcase in these builds are going to be obtainable before the Shadowlands. So as early as Act 1. And I think I've still managed to create some really interesting and thematic builds with this equipment limitation in mind, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. But I'm going to actually get into the camping equipment first. I'm wearing the comfortable Ash Meadow outfit, but any kind of similar looking outfit will work, and this is using the Mellow fruit dye. I'll have a link to all of these in the description in case I forget, but just so you know, this is kind of what I'm rocking, and I feel like it works. You could also go with the Swarthy Wayfarer in blue, which does kind of give you the white and blue look a bit more that Fred usually wears, but I feel like this just looks a little bit better overall and kind of separates him from the rest of the cast, because another cast member has a similar outfit. Guess who? So let's get into the equipment. First off, the Cap of Curing. Since we're going to be throwing around Bardic Inspiration quite a lot, we might as well get a little bit of extra healing out of it. This is super easy to obtain in Act 1, so it's no point in not picking it up. Next up, the Adamantine Split Armour. This is one of the best armor sets you can get in Act 1. Yes, you have to beat a really tough boss to do it. However, there is a way to beat that boss that makes it a lot easier if you know how to use the trap. See? See? See, I know what I'm talking about here. Yes, okay, this is kind of a stretch, but you can use any heavy armor up to this point. This is just the best heavy armor you can get in Act 1 by far. So definitely want to grab this. It's going to reduce all incoming damage by 2. You can send attackers reeling for 3 turns, and what that basically does, it means they have a -1 penalty to their attack rolls, and you cannot have critical hits land on you. So super awesome. Sets your AC to 18. We get a little bit extra from the shield, so for a total AC of 20. In Act 1, that's pretty damn good. Just gonna say it. Next up is the Gloves of Missile Snaring. Since we're kind of playing that frontline fighter, we're going to get shot a lot, so being able to use Missile Snaring to use our reaction to intercept ranged weapon attacks and reduce their damage by 1d10, plus our Dex modifier, is pretty dang good. You can obtain these from one of the very first vendors you meet in Act 1. We're also going to be getting the Line Breaker boots. Since we are going to be moving around the battlefield a lot, you're probably going to be dashing quite a lot. So getting a little bit of Wrath for dashing, which gives you a +1 bonus to your attacks, is pretty good. Again, this is really easy to obtain in Act 1. You'll get it just by beating an enemy in the story. So pretty easy to grab and worth getting. Next up, Uncovered Mysteries. I had to use this one. It's going to let you cast Attack Thoughts once per long rest. So when you're interrogating potential suspects, you can use this to kind of bolster your chances by literally reading their minds. So, but it's called Uncovered Mysteries. I had to. Next up, the Caustic Band. You can obtain this in Act 1, and it just makes our weapon attacks do that little bit of extra damage. Acid damage in this case. Not really on theme, but I wanted to show it off. Next up is the Ring of Color Spray. Again, not really on theme, but again, Fred likes setting traps, and who says he wouldn't have a little bit of pocket sand to throw at the creature? I love calling Color Spray pocket sand. I don't know why. Help. I need help. Next up, we're going to be grabbing Valour Aluv as our weapon. We get this in Act 1, and it kind of plays that leader role, being able to buff up our allies with Valour Aluv, Sing, or Shriek. Sing, giving all of our allies a d4 bonus to attack rolls and mental saving throws, which is great. Or Shriek, being able to give a penalty to those same saving throws to our enemies and also deal extra thunder damage. This is just a perfect weapon for a leader of a group. I kind of used it in that similar vein in my Dancer of Elistray video, so I wanted to kind of reuse it here because it just felt so on theme and was good for Act 1. Also, we're getting the Absolute's Protector. I absolutely feel like in this kind of scenario, in order to infiltrate and infiltrate the enemy organization and figure out who the bad guys are, Fred would absolutely, well, maybe, he's a badass. He would maybe brand himself in order to do this. So we can get a little bit of a bonus here from the Absolute's brand. If we have it, all damage from spells is reduced by 1, giving us that bit of extra tankiness. We get the standard Shield Bash, and we can also cast Fire Shield Chill. Now, I have said that I think this is obtainable in Act 1. I'm just going to quickly double check because I might have been wrong about that. Nah, I messed up. Yep, this one's obtainable in Act 2, but use any +2 shield up until that point. Damn it, I messed up. So next up we have the Jolt Shooter. This is a bow that you can get in Act 1, unlike the shield. My apologies. And this gives you lightning charges whenever you hit with it. It's just a good bow that you can get quite easily, and it gives you a little bit of a buff. Lightning charges are going to add extra lightning damage, and just have a unique effect overall. So yeah, overall pretty solid kit. Like I say, just use any shield you come across. I'm pretty sure you can get like a regular +2 shield pretty much anywhere. But then when you kind of get to Act 2, you can grab this one and kind of get some benefits from it. I apologize for kind of missing that. You know what I'm like, I make mistakes in these videos. But anyways, that is Fred. There's going to be a bit of a cut here since I'm going to stop this recording and restart it to be able to not, in case something messes up. So yeah, see you in a bit. Okay, and we're back. So now we're moving on to Daphne. Now, with Daphne, I kind of read up a little bit just to kind of remind myself, because I wasn't quite sure what role she was going to play in a D&D party. And I ended up realizing that through my own history of watching the show and from what I read, she's got a couple of unique aspects of her that fit perfectly into a D&D party. First off, she is very, very dexterous. She kind of has a lot of roguish skills, being able to lockpick with a hairpin, being very, very flexible, able and very athletic, being able to do a ton of interesting things like flying high and, you know, somersaults and all that. And she's also a karate black belt, meaning that there's quite an obvious combo to go with here. So I'm going to be kicking things off with Rogue. This is going to grant us sneak attack, and that means if we have advantage to hit, we get to do extra damage. This is quite cool, but it only works if you're using a finesse weapon, which we are not. But if you wanted to kind of maybe use a dagger or a short sword on this build, there's nothing stopping you. It wouldn't nerf the power of this build. I just wanted to go with the unarmed aspect because that's more what karate is about. But we want to start off this way to get our proficiencies and expertise. Mainly, I've gone with the noble background for sleight of hand. Oh, sorry, not the noble background. What have I gone with? No, that's granted by our class. My apologies. I have gone with the noble background. This is what happens when I try to record builds back to back. For history and persuasion, because I believe she comes from quite a rich family, if I remember correctly, so I feel like that makes sense. But we're also going to be getting sleight of hand and stealth, and we want our expertise in that, so we can be really stealthy and being able to lockpick and pickpocket, which is quite on theme. We're also going to be grabbing insight, because again, we want to be able to tell when people are lying to us, and also we can grab deception and performance if we so choose. I might move performance into investigation instead, because I feel like that is more on theme for the build, but deception also works. I kind of wrote this as being like a more of a kind of femme fatale type character, one of those types of rogues, where it's like, oh, they mainly use their wiles and good looks to be able to kind of infiltrate and get what they want, and then are quite martially capable enough to figure out the rest once they get caught. So that's kind of what I went with when I was designing this build. So yeah, we want to start off with Rogue for the proficiencies mainly, and our stats are going to look a bit like this: 16 Dex, 14 Con, 16 Wisdom, and we've got a spread of Intelligence and Charisma, so that those aren't in the negatives, but feel free to bump one of those down to bump up Con if you so choose. But this is the stat spread I'm going with for now. Of course, in reality, for a character like this, probably most of these lower stats here would be like at max, but that's not really how D&D works, so I've compromised as best I can. Alright, next up we are Rogue level 2, but I'm gonna suggest we're gonna jump quickly over to Monk. Now, again, you can take these multi-classing kind of things in whatever you like, but I did want to get Unarmed Strike as quickly as possible. So I would take a one-level monk dip right away, and then choose to either go with Rogue or Monk from there on out. I'm going to go with a quick dip into Monk, and then back over to Rogue, and then we'll go back into Monk once we've finished in Rogue. Personally, because I think this works better overall, because you kind of get extra attacks sooner than usual by going this route, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. So, with Monk, we're going to be getting our Flurry of Blows and also Unarmored Defense, and our ability to use our Dex from Unarmed Strikes and Monk weapons. Pretty darn good overall, so yeah, that's pretty much all we need right now. And as I stated, we're going to go back over to Rogue now, mainly because this is going to get us some important features, like the ability to hide, dash, and disengage as a bonus action. Super important for being able to get across the battlefield quickly. Next up, we're going to be a Rogue level 3, and you know, this, it's not a hard thing to go to, like, decipher. We're going Thief. Like, it makes the most sense by a long shot. Getting that extra bonus action for a Monk is super important, and I can't really imagine anything from Arcane Trickster or Assassin being on theme here, so Thief is the best we're going to be able to do. And we're going to be taking a 4th level of Rogue for the feat, and now you can grab whatever you like here. I'm personally going to be bumping up my Dex, because with our Dex at 18, our Armour is going to give us a +2 to Dex as well, meaning we're already at level 20 here. So yeah, pretty good. Level 20. Dexterity 20. If we were at level 20, this would be a much different game overall. And now we're going to jump back to Monk. Now, the reason I kind of said we get extra attack a bit earlier here is because now, with our bonus action unarmed strikes and our flurry of blows, we can make 2 of those per turn, essentially making 3 attacks per turn, which is the same as a Monk with extra attack, just in a slightly different way. So, really, you've got an extra attack quite early with this way, so getting our main extra attack later hurts a little less, but let's start getting to that now. We're going to be getting Monk level 2 here. These 2 abilities are useless because we're part rogue, but we are getting Patient Defense, allowing us to impose disadvantage on attack rolls against us, so I feel like that's pretty good. We're also going to be getting up to our unarmored movement as well. Next up at Monk level 3, we're going to be able to pick our subclass, and, well, it's Karate, not really too much fantastical about it, so Way of the Open Hand works pretty well, giving us our Flurry of Blows variants to knock enemies prone, stagger them, or push them away from us, and is overall a very powerful subclass. Next up, we're going to be a Monk level 4, meaning we're going to get another feat, and this one, you can kind of play around with it a bit. You can go for whatever you like, but since we are going to be a frontline martial fighter, I am going to want to bump up our Constitution here, since our Wisdom is not as important when we're at open hand Monk, but Constitution definitely will be, so I'm going to bump that up here. Next up at Monk level 5, we're going to be getting extra attack, meaning now we can attack 4 times per turn with a mixture of our bonus unarmed strikes and flurry of blows in conjunction with our main action attacks. So now we are a very efficient boss beater type of build, being able to attack many times. We also get Stunning Strike. Next up at Monk level 6, we're going to be getting some subclass features, and these are all pretty darn good. We're going to be able to have our unarmed attacks count as magical for overcoming resistance and immunity, more unarmored movement, the ability to make our unarmed strikes deal necrotic, radiant, or psychic damage, depending on what we want, for free. Also getting Wholeness of Body, giving us a bit of health recovery, regaining our key points, and for 3 turns having an extra bonus action, meaning we now have 3 total. I use this in my Unending Wrath video to quite a powerful extent. Next up, we're going to be a Monk level 7, meaning we're going to be getting some extra cool features here. We're going to be getting Evasion, meaning that we're either immune or only take half damage from spell effects that require a dex saving throw. We're also going to get Stillness of Mind, meaning that we cannot be charmed or frightened. So that kind of plays into the paranormal investigator type thing. We ain't scared of no ghost. Getting Anti-Fear was very important to me in this build. In all of my builds in this video, actually. Finally, at Monk level 8, we're going to be getting our final feat, and you can really take whatever you like here. It isn't the biggest deal. If you want an ability score improvement to bump up your Wisdom or Constitution, absolutely fine. But there's a ton of other stuff you can choose to grab here. If you went more of a strength route, maybe if you grabbed like some strength potions, I've been told are quite good. Tavern Brawler can be super, super powerful if you wanted to go down that route. Tough can also be really good if you want some extra hit points. Tons of different stuff here. I'm personally just going to go with a regular old ability score improvement, upping my Constitution up to 18, because again, I don't feel like we need Wisdom as much with this build, but I could be wrong. Actually, Wisdom would bump up our AC a bit more, maybe. So, it's if you want more AC, go with this. If you want more HP, go with this. Maybe I will put my Wisdom up, just because. Okay, and that is the build as for levels. Pretty powerful overall. Our unarmed strikes are going to be doing a ton of damage, 1d6, and we get to make so many attacks per turn that we're going to feel like a strong martial fighter. So, let's get into the equipment. Now, I promise, this time, all of these can be obtained before the Shadowlands. I promise. Cap of Wrath, we can buy this quite early on. During combat, when the wearer starts off with 50% less hit points, they gain Wrath for 2 turns, which basically means we're going to get a little bit of a buff to our melee damage, similar to Fred, but except it comes with the health requirement rather than the dashing requirement. Next up, the Graceful Cloth. You can buy this from a vendor in Act 1.5, I'm going to refer to it, as a commenter pointed out that I could, because yes, it technically advances Act 1's questline to the point where Act 1 kind of is done, but it's technically not before Act 2, so we're going to call it Act 1.5, and again, I said before the Shadowlands, not all in Act 1. I've played you all for fools. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You gain Cat's Grace, which means you gain advantage on dexterity checks permanently, which is awesome. That goes into our lockpicking, roguish type of aspect. That's really cool. And also, we get to increase our dex score by 2 to a maximum of 20, like I said. Also, we're going to gain a bonus to our dex saves and increase our jump distance. This is an incredible piece of kit for monks, and you can get it so early, but it works right up until you finish the game. It is so good, and having that 20 dex and being able to put those points into other things is really useful. Next up, the Sparkle Hands. You're going to be able to get these in Act 1, and they're going to, basically when you hit with an unarmed attack, you gain 2 lightning charges, which again, similar to Fred, allows us to manipulate lightning charges in a way that allows us to do extra damage with our unarmed strikes, and we are going to be able to trigger this quite a lot since we make so many attacks, getting that extra d8 of lightning damage. Also, we're going to be going with the Disintegrating Nightwalkers for our boots. Being able to quickly get around the battlefield on foot is nice, but teleporting is even nicer, and allowing us to not be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared and cannot slip over is super, super good. Daphne is very, very confident in her skills and light on her feet, so this works perfectly. And you knew I was going to use them, because I always do. Next up, the Amulet of Misty Step. This can also be obtained in Act 1, and what is better than 1 Misty Step? 2 Misty Steps per short rest. Pretty good. The Ring of the Absolute. If we have the Absolute brand, we deal an extra 1 Thunder damage, but it really doesn't matter. This is just a ring that you can get that lets you cast Thunder Wave, regardless of whether you have the brand or not, once per long rest. It's just a decent ring that you can get in Act 1 that I felt like showing off here, but again, all of this stuff can be replaced when you get to Act 2. You can just get better things. Next up, the Ring of Jumping. This lets you cast Enhanced Leap once per long rest. Again, just a good utility piece of kit to have. Not necessary to the build. Again, you can change these up once you get to the later acts. But yeah, that is the build as far as Daphne is concerned. I was quite happy with this. Again, it's fairly bulk standard, but it works well for the theme and as part of this team. Probably one of the less interesting builds I've done as part of this collection. However, it just works well enough that I feel, and is on theme enough that I am quite happy to use it. So, let's move on to the next build. Next up on the docket is Velma. Now, obviously, Velma is quite the, she's the main, like, kind of analyzer of the group. She's the sciencey type. She knows a lot of things. She's very, very intelligent, very, very wise as well, and is able to help the gang out by analyzing clues, and is probably the main bulk of how the mysteries are solved, just through her deduction skills alone. So I wanted to kind of lean into that intelligent aspect, and I definitely think in D&D, she is going to be a magic caster. She is the party's wizard, basically, and I'm going with wizard here for the most part, but we're also going to be doing a little bit of multiclassing here to get some extra abilities that are on theme for the build, and allow her to play a more of a support role, because I really wanted this to be kind of a ranged blaster caster support type deal, so that she can support the gang as much as possible. So we're going to be going wizard to start. Now you may want to kind of change up the multi-classing here if you don't care about the skill proficiencies, but I really wanted certain skill proficiencies that only wizard can give us, so I started with wizard, but you can also start with our other multi-class if you would prefer to get the proficiencies from that. But anyways, we're going to be getting some cantrips here. Firebolt is one of the best possible ways to kind of get a ranged cantrip. It is one of the most powerful, and it's really, really good. Mage Hand has a ton of utilities, and I definitely think that Velma would have it. And you can grab friends here, but since Fred is more of the face of the party, I don't feel like it's necessary. Minor Illusion works as a little bit of trickery. Shocking Grasp also works. Take anything here, basically, but True Strike. We're also going to get to prepare 6 spells, and I feel like these all work pretty well. Longstrider is going to give the whole team a speed boost, which makes sense for Scooby-Doo. They're usually running away or towards something. Shield is just a really useful utility spell anyway. Expeditious Retreat, this is kind of like a cartoony, quickly run away type move, like being able to dash as a bonus action for the cost of a spell. Not really that useful. You could change this out, but I kind of just wanted to show it off as it's on theme. But anything else really from the spell list will do, but I'm going to grab it here because, again, it's on theme and I like it, and when am I ever going to use it again? We also get Magic Missile. This is basically just our main leveled spell damage dealer, just something we wanted to pick up. Featherfall is a really useful utility spell that's going to help out the whole party, as well as Enhance Leap. So yeah, just basically grabbing the utility spells and some basic damage stuff right off the bat here. And our stats are going to be as follows. For some reason, my thing's messed up here. There we go. So we're going to be having Dexterity at 14 for armor class reasons, and just basically like initiative rolls. Constitution is a bit on the lower end, but because this is a support build that stays at range and relies on the others to kind of get in there, I felt like it made perfect sense for this to be the case. So yeah, we're just going to have Constitution be our lowest stat here, use this as a support build, not a frontline fighter. And also our Intelligence and Wisdom are going to be able to go up to 16 as a result of this. We want these 2 stats to be super high because we are the investigative type, and we're also going to want our Wisdom for some stuff that we're going to get in a minute. And of course, I went with the Sage background here to get Arcana and History, and then used our proficiencies to get Investigation and Insight. These are all of the kind of mystery-solving kind of proficiencies, so I definitely wanted to pick these up here, 100%. So, yeah. Next up, we're going to be a Wizard level 2, and you probably saw this coming when I mentioned the sciencey stuff, but we are once again going to be going with the Transmutation School of Magic. I used this on my Arcane Trickster build, and that worked out pretty well, so I want to use it here. We get Experimental Alchemy. You get to, basically, if you succeed a medicine check, you can create 2 alchemy extracts, alchemy solutions per extract, so basically you get a chance to make 2 things whenever you use alchemy. I think Velma would absolutely use alchemy, pull out her, like, like alchemic creation kit and make things to help the party, the potions of speed, the elixirs, the grenades, all of it. It just makes sense for this build, but if you don't care about that so much, any of these other subclasses would probably do just fine, but I quite like Transmutation here because it feels on theme for her character. Next up, we're going to be able to grab a couple of more spells here, and this is kind of a choose whatever you like situation. I quite like Fog Cloud here because it works as kind of like a smoke trap if the enemy steps on it and then they get all blinded, and then you're able to snap them, bag them, tag them, grab them, and pull off that mask. You get the point. So Fog Cloud works pretty well on its own theme here, and the other spell could be whatever you like. Disguise Self might be pretty good if she could pull out like a disguise kit and like be able to like kind of use her smarts to infiltrate things. But I quite like Grease here because it is a slip and fall trap, basically setting up a trap on the floor and the enemy slips over it and cartoonishly slams into a bookcase in which they are stunned and you're able to pull the mask off. Definitely on theme for this build. So I would definitely be picking up probably this kind of setup. Enhanced Sleep is less important, but especially since another character is also going to be able to get it. But I quite like having these here just for the utility. Yeah, let's move on. Actually, no, I'm going to change Longstrider for Fog Cloud because, like I said, we are going to have someone else in the party who can use Longstrider. Wink, wink. Now, we're going to be dipping over into our multi-class here, and we're going to be, you probably guessed it, going into Cleric and taking the Knowledge Domain. I mean, this is just, it makes so much sense. This is going to allow Velma to be a true investigator, being able to have skill proficiencies in pretty much anything we want at a given notice. So, we're going to get a couple of cantrips here, and I'm obviously going to recommend the 3 dialogue cantrips, Thaumaturgy, Guidance, and Resistance, to be able to buff up ourselves and our team for those investigative parts of the game. When we need to solve a mystery, Velma knows how to help the team analyze the clues and solve the case. And as for our deity, pick whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. I think Mystra makes sense here, because we're playing an arcane and also kind of religious caster, similar to my Mystic Theurge build. I feel like this works quite well here. So definitely want to be picking up Mystra, probably, but if there's anything else you feel like might be more appropriate, such as such as Ogma, that's why I got messed that up, you can go with something like that, but I quite like Mystra here. We're also going to get to Ability Expertise. You can take Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion. I am personally leaning more towards Arcana and History, just because I quite like those two as more of a investigation kind of mystery-solving type of not cantrip, proficiency. So I would grab those, but you can grab these if you want. We still have decent scores in them regardless. We're also going to get to prepare some spells here, and I would say that Sanctuary is definitely something you want on this build, because since we're playing with lower constitution, being able to make ourselves invulnerable and still keep our support spells up is going to be super important. I would also say Guiding Bolt is pretty good. Being able to give the rest of your team advantage on the next attack roll against the enemy is pretty good. Bless, absolutely. It's one of the best early game support spells, and combined with Sanctuary is going to make your whole team really, really powerful, especially if you stack it with the Sing ability from Valour. And lastly, it can be whatever you like. I definitely want this build to kind of do some healing, so either Cure Wounds or Healing Word, if we're going to be staying back, is definitely worth picking up. Next up, we're going to be a Cleric level 2, which means because we're a Knowledge Cleric, we're going to get our Channel Divinity ability. You know it, you love it. It is Knowledge of the Ages. Until your next long rest, gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability, meaning that any skill proficiency you need, you can get it, which is awesome. Definitely worth picking up and is on theme for this build. We're also going to get another spell, and I'm obviously going to be taking Cure Wounds because I want this build to be a support build for the whole group, so getting healing spells is super important. And lastly, we actually are going to be going to Cleric level 3 here, because there are some extra things that I want. Because we are a Knowledge Cleric, we're going to be getting 2 extra spells, Calm Emotions and Hold Person. Calm Emotions works on theme because, again, it's that anti-frightening aspect of being able to calm down Shaggy and Scooby with the tantalizing allure of a Scooby snack. So definitely works here. And also Hold Person is, like, again, same rationale as Fred, setting up that paralyzing trap to be able to catch the bad guy. We're also going to get to prepare some more spells, and I would absolutely say Aid is a must. This is going to bump up your whole team in a major way, giving them more maximum HP. And I would also say, if you feel like you want to drop maybe Guiding Bolt, Enhanced Ability is super, super good. Again, it's great for buffing up the whole team. Definitely worth picking up here. And we are done with our cleric levels now, so we're going to be jumping back over to wizard. I mean, you have the option to grab a feat here, but there is a certain higher level spell that I want to get off of wizard, but if you don't care about that spell, I would take the feat here and then keep going the rest of the way in wizard. But we're going back to wizard now. And now we get to take some level 2 spells. Now, you have a few options here. Again, See Invisibility does fit and is on theme for being able to see ghosts. Misty Step is a really useful spell. Mirror Image is a really useful spell. Detect Thoughts can be a really useful spell for gathering clues. Knock, if for some reason Daphne just can't pick that lock. You melt it off. There's a ton of different options here, and feel free to play around with whatever you like here. It really doesn't matter. You can justify pretty much any of these, I think, with enough kind of flavouring. I'm going to take Misty Step and See Invisibility here because I kind of want that utility for this build, and I feel like it is on theme. So we'll pop Misty Step in there, and I don't know why it's messed about all my spells, but hey ho, there we go. Next up at Wizard level 4, we are going to be grabbing our first feat, and I am absolutely going to be wanting to bump up our intelligence because we use it for so many different things, and we want those spell save DCs to be as high as possible. We're also going to get another cantrip at this level. Take whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. I will just take Friends just in case Velma ends up in conversation, and her low charisma isn't as much of an issue. Next up, we can grab 2 more spells, and I quite like grabbing Detect Thoughts here to be able to analyze the situation, and maybe you can flavor it as you're not directly reading a creature's thoughts, but actually reading their body language and emotion to be able to tell if they're lying. That could also work. And also, I quite like, what do I like here? I mean, it could be really anything, it doesn't matter. Maybe a Ray of Enfeeblement for setting up a trap to make your opponents a bit weaker, but honestly, that one's a bit of a stretch, so take whatever you like here, it really doesn't matter. I'll go with Darkness for maybe like a smoke trap, again, a bit similar to Fog Cloud. We'll go with that, shall we? I'll probably replace that, actually. Yeah, we'll go with that. Next up, we're going to be getting more levels of Wizard here, and we're going to be able to grab 2 level 3 spells, I should say. And of course, we're going to be taking the classics right off the bat. We're going to want Haste to be able to buff up a party member and make them super fast, so maybe Shaggy, and also give them a buff to their armor class and an extra action, super, super good. Also, Counterspell is awesome. It's going to let us shut down enemy spells, and I feel like that's something that would work as part of a kind of like team balance aspect that I'm really going for here. So we definitely want to grab these. I'm going to pop these into the build for sure. So boop, boop, and boop. Perfect. Next up at Wizard level 6, we're going to be able to grab our subclass feature, and as a Transmuter Wizard, we're going to be able to get Transmuter Stone. Basically, you can create a stone that you can place in your own inventory or an ally's inventory that's going to give them some unique buffs, including you can give them resistance to a certain damage type, increased movement speed, proficiency on Constitution saving throws, so you probably want to use that on this particular character, and a couple of other things. So it's definitely worth grabbing this. You get to do it for free once per long rest, and that stone will remain until your next long rest, so I feel like it's just a nice little extra buff to have, and it's another thing that Velma uses her science to create to support the team. Next up, we're going to be getting some more spells, and much like Fred, I suggest picking up Glyph of Warding here. What's better than 1 trap? 2 traps, and you can really control the battlefield with this much kind of trap laying and control, and again, it's on theme. And I would actually suggest for an on-theme spell here, let's take Feign Death. In a similar vein to the comedy aspect of my Timora build, I think that Velma losing her glasses, which we unfortunately can't get visually here, but you get the point, and fumbling around on the floor looking for them, only for her enemies who are chasing after her to cartoonishly trip over her and not be able to deal as much damage, really, really works, and I quite like it here as a thematic kind of ode to one of the show's longest running gags. So yeah, I would definitely slot these in here somehow, like so. Perfect. Next up at Wizard level 7, we're going to be grabbing 2 more spells, and we are up to level 4 spells at this point. Now, this is where the spells start to kind of go so crazy that they're not really on theme anymore, but I feel like I can still flavor them well enough anyways. Luke's Resilient Sphere. Enclose a target in a sphere of shimmering force, reducing its movement speed by half and blocking all incoming and outgoing damage. You can cast this on an ally to make sure they can't be hurt, but also can't do any harm, so that might not work. Or you can use it to, my thematic intention, trap an enemy and make it harder for them to run away once they've been caught. Again, maybe not the best option here, but it's on theme and I wanted to include it. You can take whatever you like here. I'm also going to grab Fireball, because even though it's completely not on theme at all, I just want a powerful ranged blaster option for this build, because again, this is still a D&D party at the end of the day. Yeah, perfect. Next up at Wizard level 8, we are going to be grabbing another feat, and I'm just keeping it simple here. We are bumping our intelligence up to 20, so we can get as much out of our spells as possible, and I feel like that's a powerful move here, but there may be other options if you want to get more creative. And we also get to get some more spells at this level. Greater Invisibility is a really good spell. Again, for a character that wants to stay out of the main frontline combat, could be a really important way of doing that, allowing you to stay invisible while still casting spells as long as you pass the related checks. Maybe not the most powerful option, but could definitely work. I also like Dimension Door here, just being able to, again, support your allies by being able to taxi them around the battlefield, use it with teleportation. But if you don't feel like that really works out for you, you can grab something like Fire Shield, Blight, Banishment, Confusion, Polymorph. Any of these kind of work. But heck, Sleet Storm if you wanted to go that route. There's so many different options here, even down in the level 1s, so pick what you would like. I'm just going to go Greater Invisibility and Dimension Door for the support utility that they, and for kind of, you know, safety that they can provide, I guess. And finally, at Wizard level 9, we're going to be getting level 5 spells, and the spell that I came all this way for is Hold Monster. Now, we not only get to set a trap that paralyzes humanoid creatures, but also literal monsters as well, if you're super on theme for kind of monster catchers and such and all that. So Hold Monster, definitely wanted to grab that here. Your other spell can be whatever you really like. Seeming might be on theme if Velma and Daphne pull out their disguise kits and makeup kits and put everyone into disguises, like in the show. That can definitely work. Conjure Elemental could work, any of these work. I'm actually going to take Seeming, because now that I've said that, I quite like that, because it's quite on theme, but of course you can take whatever you like here, it really doesn't matter. And that is the build. So with that, you are getting a lot of utility spells. You're able to heal and harm. You're able to back up the party by bumping up their, their stats, and with haste as well, and also be able to set traps a bit like Fred. You have a lot of utility here. Let's get into the equipment. First off, we have Wayfarer's Crown. Since we're going to be doing some healing, we might as well get some healing back. Whenever you heal another creature, you also regain 1d6 hit points. Again, for someone who has such low hit points, this might come in handy. Also, the Adamantine Scale Mail. You can create 2 adamantine items, and these are the 2 I have selected. So all of your incoming damage is reduced by 1, and you can't have critical hits land on you, and it has the same reeling effect as the other armor, basically giving you a lot of extra tankiness for someone with low health. This is really, really useful. Next up, the Hellrider's Pride. When you heal another creature, it gains resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by weapon attacks, and also you get a bit of a buff to strength saving throws, which doesn't really matter, but being able to bump up your party's resistances just by healing them, making it a big double whammy of a spell, is really, really good. Definitely worth picking these up. Lastly, the Boots of Aid and Comfort. When the wearer heals a target, they gain an additional 3 temporary hit points. Again, just adding to that extra tankiness, just getting it for free for something we're already going to be doing. Next up, the Amulet of Lost Voices. This lets you cast Speak with Dead once per long rest, and since we will be interrogating people looking for clues, I feel like in a D&D party, there's nothing to say that they wouldn't be asking the dead for similar questions to try and figure out who the ghost really is. Absolutely makes sense on this build. Next up, the Mage's Friend just gives you a little bit of a bump to Arcana and Religion, which works. It can help out with those checks and is on theme for Velma because she would know these things. And finally, the Whispering Promise. Again, when we heal another creature, they are going to get basically a minor version of Bless, basically getting a buff to attack rolls and saving throws. So yeah, it just fits on theme. Basically, now your healing spells are going to be doing way more than just healing, which is super, super helpful for a support character. This is not to mention all the things you can create with alchemy. Our staff here is Melf's first staff. Again, this is just a decent staff that you can obtain in Act 1. You get a +1 bonus to your spell save DC and spell attack rolls, which is really good since a lot of our spells do have DC requirements. We also get to cast Melf's Acid Arrow once per long rest, which is just a decent attacking spell. And we also get, it's also a +1 weapon, so technically you can bonk someone on the head of it, but I wouldn't. The camp clothing here is the comfortable red shirt. I just realized I forgot to mention this for the Daphne build, but she's wearing just Gale's default outfit, and this one is just wearing the comfortable red shirt colored pale orange. Yeah, nothing really too different there. Again, everything relating to that is going to be in the description regardless. So yeah, that is Velma. Let's move on to my favourite character. And last but certainly not least, we have Shaggy, my personal favourite character in maybe all of fiction. I don't know, I just resonate with this guy so much. He's a really important character from my childhood, and yeah, I'm very happy to be building him right now. So, I feel like a Shaggy build is fairly obvious. I mean, because we're missing the clear, key, final component of the Scooby-Doo team that is, well, in the name, literally Scooby-Doo himself. And the Ranger Beastmaster combo is so on theme for Shaggy as it already stands, as well as giving us Scooby-Doo, our final team member. You know where I'm going with this. This is pretty much going to be similar to some of my other builds. This is going to be a almost full Beastmaster Ranger build, but we're going to be taking a slight dip into something else. But anyways, let's get into the build. Obviously, we're starting Ranger. This is going to give us a couple of things, mainly our weapon and armor proficiencies that we want, but it's also going to give us some extra skill proficiencies through a favored enemy and natural explorer. I would say if you want to go heavy armor in this build, you could go ranged knight, but I don't think it's as necessary. But you absolutely can if you want. But I'm going to be taking Bounty Hunter here, because Shaggy and Scooby can also set traps as with the best of them. I think being able to have Ensnaring Strike work a little bit harder for us definitely works. So Bounty Hunter is something I would definitely take. And you can, obviously, Beast Tamer seems like an obvious choice, but we're not really going to be, Scooby-Doo's not a familiar, and you can already get a fine familiar of a dog, that being Scratch, but our companion mainly is going to be our Beast Companion, so I don't really think Beast Tamer is necessary. So Urban Tracker for Sleight of Hand proficiency is a nice buff, or you could take Wasteland Wanderer for any of these resistances, although I am going to recommend swapping to the Darkfire Shortbow later on, but so maybe Cold and Fire resistance won't be your biggest bets. So I would take Urban Tracker or Wasteland Warrior Poison, but I'm going to go with Urban Tracker for now. As for our ability scores, they're a little bit all over the place. We're going to be getting 16 Dex and 16 Wiz, pretty standard. I'm also going to suggest 15 Constitution, using Ethel's Boon to turn that to a 16, and then also 10 Charisma. As for our proficiencies, we're going to be getting Athletics and Survival from our background, because I went with the Outlander, because the way I kind of picture Shaggy in a D&D setting is someone who literally just is a hippie who lives in the woods with their pet dog. Works. It's on theme, so I went with it. We're also going to be getting Sleight of Hand from our passive feature. We're going to be getting Stealth from our race, because I actually made Shaggy a wood half-elf, as much as I made Velma a Dwagar dwarf, and Daphne a full wood elf. So we're getting a bit of extra movement speed from our race as well, which is nice because the whole point of Shaggy is kind of movement speed. And also a dog companion. So we're going to be grabbing Animal Handling because of course he would have that. Nature because of course he would. And Perception because of course he would. As well as in addition to all the other stuff. So yeah, works out pretty well. Next up at Ranger level 2, we're going to be getting a fighting style. And this is, it's kind of up to you what you want to go with. I've gone with a club for this build, but I've also got a bow on this build, so archery or dueling is going to work. However, I just remembered we're actually going to be taking a quick dip into Druid, because this is going to get us some things that I want. Namely, we're going to be getting the cantrip Shillelagh to buff up our club damage. I don't know why I was so into the idea of using a club with this build, but it just felt right. I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to use a club, and there's a powerful club that you can get in Act 1, so it all worked out. I'm also going to be getting Poison Spray, because Shaggy's burps probably smell really bad, so this is kind of a gag move. Totally not smoke of any kind. Also, we're going to be getting some spells here, and absolutely we are taking Goodberry. This is literally Scooby Snacks. We need to take Goodberry here. They give us a little bit of healing. You can make these berries that appear in your inventory, and anybody can eat them for a little bit of healing, and they last until your long rest, and they can also be used as camp supplies, so these are never not going to be useful. Get your Scooby Snacks. Also, we're going to be taking Speak with Animals, because of course Shaggy can speak with animals. He literally speaks to his dog constantly. We're also going to be grabbing Longstrider here. Told you we could get it on another character, because Shaggy runs really, really fast, and this way the whole team can run really, really fast. Your final spell can be whatever you like. If you want to play more into the trapping aspect, there's nothing wrong with going with Entangle here. Basically creating a fine surface, slowing down creatures, and this is probably what I'm going to take anyway. So yeah, one little dip into Druid for these bits of kit. Next up, we're going to be going back to Ranger, and we're going to be staying there. Sorry if this is a bit boring, and I've kind of done builds like this before, but it was the best thing I could come up with for this build. Because we went with that dip in Druid, a lot of the Ranger spells are already covered for, so we're going to be grabbing Ensnaring Strike, as promised, and also Hunter's Mark. This is going to be super important later, and I feel like Shaggy would be able to go, "Zoinks, it's the monster!" and then actually point them out, and then all of a sudden, you know, getting that little bit of bonus, like literally marking the enemy. And like I said, we're going to be taking a fighting style here, archery or dueling, whichever your preference. I'm going to go with dueling. Next up at Ranger level 3, we're getting our subclass, and that means we're finally getting the good boy himself. Scoobert Doobert has entered the team, allowing us to summon a wolf companion. Now, obviously, that's not exactly a Great Dane, but it's as close as I could get. Of course, we also get another spell at this level, and we're just going to be grabbing the final possible spell we can, which is Hail of Fawns. This means as a bonus action, we can make our bow do a little bit extra for us. Pretty good. Next up, we're going to be a Ranger level 4, which means we're going to be able to grab our first feat. And of course, you could go with an ability score improvement, either bumping up your dexterity or your wisdom, depending on what you want. But I'm going to just show off the feat that is obviously so on theme. We're going mobile, which means our movement speed is now increased. Shaggy is going to be able to zoom all over the place in typical Scooby-Doo fashion. And difficult terrain isn't going to affect us when we dash, and as long as we whack our enemy quickly, like, for example, in panic throwing a bowl at them, or something, or like a candelabra, or whatever else is in a haunted mansion, you're not going to be provoking opportunity attacks against yourself when you move, so that's pretty good. So yep, increased movement speed, a lack of opportunity attacks, and you don't have to deal with difficult terrain as much, so mobile is super on theme here. Next up at Ranger level 5, we're finally getting extra attack, meaning we can now make 2 attacks per turn, and also we're going to be getting Companion's Bond, meaning our proficiency bonus is added to the armor class and damage rolls of our Beast Companion. Pretty good. We also get level 2 spells at this point, and honestly, you can take whatever you like. If you want the whole gang to be able to stealth their way and not alert the bad guys, you could go with Pass Without Trace, and it's probably what I would pick. But Silence also works if you're trying to keep yourself and Scooby quiet, so you guys don't alert the monster that you're trying so desperately not to chatter your teeth in front of. Spike Growth also works if you want to go more down the trapping angle as well, but I'm going to be taking Pass Without Trace for now because we've got a lot of traps. Next up at Ranger level 6, we're going to be grabbing some more of Favored Enemy and Natural Explorer, meaning we can now grab Ranger Knight if you want to go the heavy armor route. Also, we can grab our Wasteland Wanderer Poison that I talked about before as well. Next up at Ranger level 7, we're going to be getting a subclass feature, that being Exceptional Training. Your animal companion can now dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action, so very on theme for a Scooby-Doo companion. We also get another level 2 spell at this point. Let's grab that Spike Growth so we have yet another trap. This whole team is really good at battlefield control. Next up at Ranger level 8, we are going to be getting another feat, and this is going to be an ability score improvement, and I would say bumping up your dex is absolutely the way to go. Or you can bump up your wisdom here. It really doesn't matter. Dex or wisdom will do the job. In fact, I actually will go with wisdom because we're using Shillelagh here. Shillelagh is what's going to makes our club deal damage based on our wisdom modifier, so it's probably the better way to go actually overall, but dex can also work. Or if you wanted to go with something like Athlete, if you wanted to make it so you could even jump further as well as Shaggy, or anything else that you feel like is on theme, but I'm just going to grab a wisdom buff here. Next up at Ranger level 9, we're going to be getting another spell, and we're actually move on to level 3 spells at this point. And you can really take whatever you like. I quite like Plant Growth here. Make weeds burst from the ground and smother an area. Creatures moving through the weeds have their movement speed quartered. So it means that you have even more battlefield control and are able to escape from the big bad monster. Also, Shaggy growing weeds. I mean, that might be why his basement is so hot. I'm not funny. Next up at Ranger level 10, we're going to be grabbing some interesting features here. We get Hide in Plain Sight. This is very on theme for Scooby-Doo. Camouflage yourself within your environment to become invisible, and gain a +10 bonus to stealth checks as long as you stand still. Run down the hallway, pop that lampshade on your head, and stand still so the enemy runs by thinking you're a lamp. Very, very in with Scooby-Doo for sure. We're also going to get another favoured enemy buff here. Take whatever you like, it really doesn't matter. We can grab Keeper of the Veil here to get protection from evil and good. That feels on theme for a group of ghost hunting teenagers. Oh god, what would the mystery machine be? Question for another day. We can also grab Beast Tamer here if we just want to have that little extra animal companion. Scrappy-Doo! Oh, but you can't make it a dog. Which is probably for the best. Because do we really want Scrappy-Doo here? Do we really? Find Familiar is a little bit more useful than the other resistances, because like I say, I'm going to recommend the Darkfire Shortbow, but if you don't want to use that, grab Wasteland Wanderer, but I'll grab Beast Tamer here anyway. And finally, at Ranger level 11, we're going to be getting our final subclass feature, which is Bestial Fury, meaning that now Scooby-Doo can do an extra attack. So super important, wanted to pick this up for sure. Also, we're going to get another spell at this level, and I don't see anything here that really stands out for me. Conjure Barrage could work, but I kind of like grabbing Lightning Arrow here just so you have that big lightning damage ranged attack that you can do. But Conjure Barrage, Silence, heck, even Daylight might actually be thematic, because I would imagine the Scooby-Doo gang would probably go after vampires quite a lot. Daylight makes sense. Yeah, actually, take Daylight, that's on theme. And with that, all of our builds have been completed. We now have Shaggy and a Scooby-Doo as well. Let's just get him on out here. Scooby-Doo, where are you? We've got some work to do now. So, obviously, with Shaggy, we're going to have a ton of battlefield control options, the ability to maneuver yourselves around the battlefield or run away from situations extremely quickly. You have a lot going on with this build about maneuverability and obviously being able to team up with Scooby himself to get into all sorts of shenanigans. So, let's get into the equipment here. First of all, the Haste Helm. At the start of combat, you gain momentum, basically granting yourself a speed boost. This just makes sense. You can either run into battle or run away as fast as you can. Next up, Hide Armour +2. This is just a powerful piece of medium armor that you can get in Act 1. That is going to work off your dex. Again, we didn't level it quite so high, but if you want to swap that whiz for dex, you can. Basically, you're going to gain a +1 bonus to dexterity saving throws and checks, and also Ambusher to gain a +1 bonus to initiative rolls, spot the enemy quick, and run away pretty quick. But obviously, upgrade this as you go. Next up, the Gloves of Archery. You gain proficiency with bows. I mean, we already have this, but your ranged weapon attacks do deal a little bit of extra damage. Basically, it's dueling for bows. Obviously, this is just a decent sort of kit you can grab in Act 1, but replace these as you go. And the Boots of Speed. As a bonus action, you can basically use Click Heels to gain a ton of extra movement speed. These can be obtained in Act 1 and are super on theme for this build. Next up, the Pearl of Power Amulet. This is a bit of a weird one. You can get this in Act 1, and basically what it does is you can replenish expended spell slots of your choice up to 3rd level. Well, since Ranger only gets up to 3rd level spells, it basically means you have a free extra spell slot to work with, essentially giving you an extra of any of these. So pretty good. I felt like showcasing it here, but again, it's not necessary to the build. The Emerald Ring. This is, again, a little bit of a weird thing with the mod I'm using, but this is listed as Crusher's Ring in-game. You can get this quite easily in Act 1, and it just gives you more movement speed, on theme for Shaggy. And also the Spurred Band. During combat, when the wearer starts their turn with 50% or less hit points, they gain momentum for 1 turn. Basically, if Shaggy's starting to take a bit too much damage and needs to run away, you get that extra bit of movement speed. Again, it's just for theme. Replace this when you get to later on in the game. And we have the Longbow +1. This can be granted from the same trader that you can buy the Hide Armor from, and basically just means we have a decent ranged option. But once you get into Act 2, I would absolutely swap this out for the Darkfire Shortbow to give yourself haste, to play more into that speed aspect, and also give yourself a big buff. Also, we have the Club of Hill Giant Strength here. I don't know why I was so drawn to using this weapon, but it felt right for Shaggy, and I cannot explain why. It's literally like a table leg that you just pick up, and for some reason gives you 19 strength. So Shaggy has this hidden power that even he didn't realize he had. So wait, technically isn't that more powerful than Shillelagh? Oh, it's about the same, actually. Huh. I probably should have thought of that. Ah, well. This video is long enough as it is. But yeah, overall, this is a decent club, but of course you can replace this if you want with something else later, maybe even dual wielding, since this is a light weapon. It's entirely up to you. Let's move on to showing off Scooby-Doo now and all of the abilities he gets. So obviously, because we have him at level 11, we get Bestial Fury for an extra attack. He gains his a buff to his armor class and bonus, and damage bonus equal to our proficiency bonus. He's also can dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action. He can make opportunity attacks, and he also has the Pack Tactics feature. Creatures that the creature has advantage on attack rolls against a target if one of its allies is within 3 meters. So if Shaggy and Scooby are teaming up, then it just makes him all the more powerful. You also get Prey Scent if you mark a target with Hunter's Mark, which Shaggy will be doing. That is going to be his main concentration feature. Both him and Scooby are going to be able to do extra damage, which is awesome. So it all works together pretty well. And you have a decent amount of AC, 21, with a decent hit point pool and decent stats around the board. So let's get into his actual attacks. First off, an Infectious Bite. This deals necrotic damage and has the possibility to inflict Septic. What Septic does is the affected entity has its constitution reduced by 1 and has disadvantage on con saves. So Scooby-Doo can actually do a lot of damage to spellcasters. Next up, we also have a regular bite that just deals piercing damage for those enemies that are resistant to necrotic. We have the lunging bite, which allows you to jump at a target and possibly knock them prone in exchange for a little bit less damage. And also we have Lupine Slash, which literally lets Scooby-Doo go full, like, Sif from Dark Souls and pull out a sword and swing with his mouth, dealing force damage to enemies in front of them in a cone. So, yeah, pretty powerful companion overall. Definitely one of the better beast companions in my opinion. But yeah, that is the builds overall. Quite fun, honestly. This was probably one of my favorite build videos to do of all time. It speaks to everything about me. I mean, heck, even if you've seen some of my earlier works before I started the whole Baldur's Gate 3 thing where I made the Phasmophobia videos, they each kind of had a bit of a Scooby-Doo theme to them, which just goes to show how much I truly love this franchise. And being able to showcase this for an 1,000 subscriber milestone, it was super, super fun. I'm not entirely sure what the combat showcase for this is going to be yet. It's probably just going to be the tutorial boss, but maybe I have something else up. I don't know. If the editing me can figure that out. But yeah, as far as, you know, it all goes, this was super fun to do. I really, really enjoyed making all of these builds. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't know how long this turned out being. Probably too long. But like I said, it's a special video. Don't expect this all the time. I would say probably if I'm going to do full team builds, they will be separate videos rather than all of them together. But I feel like these guys are such a tight-knit group that I had to kind of do them all in one video. And again, it's a special. It's meant to be, well, special in a sense. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'll do the next episode previews now. So, interestingly enough, I'm going to be doing a bit of a Druid double feature. There is going to be 2 Druid builds for my next 2 videos. One of which is a build revolving around Flame Blade. Since Shadow Blade, as I've stated a lot of times, kind of sucks in this game, I wanted to do something with a Summon Sword type weapon, and Flame Blade is the only other weapon in the game. However, I feel like I've come up with something really cool and unique for that I think you guys are absolutely going to love. My other Druid-related build is going to be my next deity build, that being based on the goddess... Oh god, I'm going to mess this up. Meleki, basically the goddess of nature. She's got a unicorn kind of as her logo. Fucking logo. Avatar is probably what I should say. But I'm quite looking forward. I've got to those 2 builds. I've got 2 really, really interesting, unique concepts that I'm really looking forward to showing off and trying out. So I think those are going to be super, super fun to do. Also, I'm still kind of working on what I want my true, like, 1,000 subscriber milestone to be. I'm still tossing around ideas from the community and stuff that I've come up with, but I'm not quite sure yet. But anyways, I really, really hope you enjoyed these builds, and I hope to see you all again next time.